Unity projects doing that. But that was brought up, so it's like, okay, let's think about it. Does that make sense or not? So that's really kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm there, but it will come up. Could you start doing this?
Actually,
Yeah, but now Sherry won't. Sherry's yeah. So, you know, probably isn't at first. But he said his plan is to be here and
Testing. Testing.
one time. Yeah.
I was looking at that and I thought, hey, we're right there.
Yeah.
And then down below, I didn't really read into it, but
How are you, sir? Yeah. I mean,
it's getting
a double one-time period, you know, limited terms, but because that's what
I don't plan on carding for you, right away, but yeah.
CMS allocated and so that special so I don't have that. I just haven't had it.
I've been busy. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well,
Thank you. How are you? I don't know. 6:30. I know. Well,
which meeting is that? Yes. I guess it's because there was one at UNC that's pretty early to get a lot of people.
So I'm listening. That's a good choice. Yeah.
How were they?
No news is good news, right?
That's exactly right.
Unfortunately, the way it works is that I would say nothing's good. Even here's a push yet. No, I got one doing golf and the ball doing a trap shoot. Let's go. Good. It is, but it's enforced by the school. It's not. They're not, that's why they can go there because, keeps them busy.
are you?
Yeah, I know, if I only knew, right?
I gotta tell you, this falls to Ann. Last year I went to the township meeting. I had to repost. Yes, they do. Yes. Either that or they have to have a vaccine. I have friends who are smarter than me. They have seats up here. You can join them.
That doesn't sound, I've never had to do it, but it doesn't sound like fun at all.
Didn't they just redo it?
I want to get rid of
And then they're gonna go down to, I think they're gonna do the next two blocks together. I think, that's what they last said, is doing it all the way down. Yeah. Which I'm kind of nervous about, because it's gonna be longer.
Thank you.
Not looking forward to it, for sure. I don't have business. Yeah. It's the first time I've been down here since I retired. Seriously. I mean, it's pretty high top down.
You have a name today. Miss Alicia. She is the best. She is. Yes.
We're not going that long. We're not going that long. Hello? Does that sound good?
Nice to meet you. Yep, we met at Pachyderm.
So we met when you were a sophomore.
And probably not before that. We were playing Little League baseball.
This is very wrong.
Fresh out, sorry.
I don't know where Sue is. All right. I call to order the joint meeting of the City of Marshalltown City Council and the Marshall County Board of Supervisors. We're at the City Hall Council Chambers, 10 West State Street, March 24th, 2026, at 5:30 p.m. Would you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
Thank you. Can I have roll call, please?
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Okay, for the Board of Supervisors?
Here.
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 Okay. We also have in the audience tonight, we have several mayors and representatives of towns in Marshall County. If you could, just stand up and loudly tell us who you're representing.
Haverhill, Mayor Maddie Welton.
Liscum, Mayor Hank Penner.
Albion's Councilmember Sarah Rothman.
Josh Fuller, Melbourne, City Council. Greg Fonz, Mayor, State Center.
Phil Summers, Council, Gilman, and also the President of McKimsa.
That all of them? Thank you all for coming. Welcome. With that, I'm going to throw this to our fire chief, Chris Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's nice to see all of you again so soon. I appreciate everybody being in chambers today for this important, kind of a historic meeting. I've never attended a joint session before. This is kind of neat. I'm happy and welcome our county colleagues to the chambers to deliberate this question of how we want to proceed forward with all of our work that we've done in the task force. I'd like to recognize some of the task force members that are here today. So from the city, let's just start at the top. Myself, I've been acting as the chair and kind of the traffic cop of the task force. Mayor Lottie Hoff has been a part of it since its inception. City Administrator Webb is on the task force for the city component, and then at the county level, it's Supervisor Hibbs. Sheriff Phillips is in the audience tonight. Welcome, sir. Hope your arm gets better. And then the Emergency Management Coordinator, Kim Elder, is on the task force also. Some of the volunteer fire chief subject matter experts, Chief Brad Fonts from the City of State Center. Thank you, Chief, for your leadership and participation. And then Chief Patterson, if he's in the room, there he is, from the Gilman Fire Department, they've all been a wealth of information, the voice of reason, and a steady kind of compass to keep moving the group forward. Thank you all for your participation so far. I know we have a lot more work to do, and I hope that we can keep moving forward. So, to the matter at hand, I have included in your packets for your review, and those of you who've been around us enough to be able to understand kind of the context of the problem that we're studying. I'll give you a little background. We'll go through the memo kind of section by section and just give you the 60,000 foot view. I won't waste a lot of your time. I'll try to be as succinct as possible. And then we can ask questions and discuss. I hope that's okay. So in 2025, we formed this task force to study the problem of what would the EMS system in Marshall County look like in the event that UPH EMS no longer wanted to do no longer was able to do, or no longer wanted to do the 911 transport. So we started to brainstorm and develop a couple of few options to move forward. We enlisted the services of a consultant who prepared a report for us, analyzed the operational capability of the county, the demographics, the run volume, the projected revenues of an EMS system, the projected costs of the different models of system that we've put forward in the report, and then they gave us a final report. I presented that to both elected officials' body, the body of the electeds, and you accepted that report in. Now, what we'd like to do, just kind of skipping to the end of this memo, is we'd like to present some information to you, refresh you on what the context is, have you discuss, and then at the end of this, we'd love for all the elected officials at the city and county level to give us direction on how you'd like us to proceed next. Ultimately, we'd love to be able to see you direct the formation of a 28E between city county, and we'd also like to see this ballot measure put forth to the public for them to vote on whether they feel that EMS is as an essential service, and then we can begin to educate the public and help people understand what it is we're trying to do, what the benefits are, and so on and so forth. So back to the memo. The system study, the overview, found that the EMS delivery in Marshall County, it's currently it's highly dependent upon a single vendor, that's Unity Point Health, and the system is supported by multiple volunteer first responder agencies. The whole system is experiencing strain due to the demands of volunteer membership of fire and EMS departments in rural areas, diverting time between professional life, family life, and volunteer fire EMS person life is a considerable amount of time commitment for all those involved. So the way that the system is constructed right now, there's a little bit of operational uncertainty. There's a severability clause in the transport agreements that exist between all of the municipalities and Unity Point Health as the ambulance provider, and that's severable within 30 days written notice. So that we'd like to be able to, and this has no bearing on what my personal opinion is of Unity Point, because they've provided a wonderful service since 1969, when it was a combination agreement between the hospital, Marshalltown Medical Surgical Center, and the county initially to provide some of the first organized ambulance service in the state. They've done outstanding work for a long period of time, longer than I've been alive. And the commitment to the community is not at issue when we study this matter. It is a business model and a revenue problem that Unity Point's experiencing. And I understand where they're coming from. So this has nothing to do with, we're not bashing any organization. They've expressed the interest, we're studying the problem, and now we're coming to the next point of the life cycle of the process. Some of the key findings in the report identified some critical issues that we'd like to, we try to address in a new system. Limited local control over EMS operations policies and patient transport decisions. Risk exposure due to reliance on a third-party provider. It kind of excludes or prevents us from having maybe as much local control or input as we'd like to have. Workforce challenges, particularly declining volunteer participation. That is a recruitment for fire and EMS is systematic and systemic throughout society right now. We, as a professional fire department, our numbers have declined in our recruitment for each hiring process that we try to put on. We are seeing less and less people. So it's only amplified in the rural areas where there's less of a pool to choose from. So we understand that. We have gotten together as a task force and provided the recommendation or for the solution that we'd like you to evaluate and give us direction on. And that is to establish a joint city-county EMS system through a 28E agreement. That system would utilize the Marshalltown Fire Department as the operational backbone of the EMS system. We'd provide the service. It would provide county-wide ALS ambulance transport, maintain and support local volunteer first responder agencies through assigning a liaison and supporting them through replacement of supplies and continued education and whatnot, and then transition toward a formal EMS district under Iowa Code Chapter 357F. That's a provision of law that allows you to draw a loop around a geographical area and create an EMS district. The funding strategy for this project would be include a few different streams of revenue. The EMS transport billing revenue at the patients, billing patients per trip or at the time of service or whatever. The local option surtax, which is a part of 422 EMS as an essential service model, and then the voter approved EMS levy, which is the actual EMS as an essential service levy put to the voters. So some policy considerations with the EMS levy. Implementation of the recommended model requires voter approval of an EMS levy under Iowa law. As such, the next step is determining whether both governing bodies, number one, whether they support the unified EMS system, and number two, are comfortable moving forward with placing an EMS levy on the upcoming election ballot. Those are the two big questions that we have to figure out. So what we are seeking, staff is seeking feedback and general direction from both City Council and County Board of Supervisors to the following. Number one, do you support the recommended EMS system between city-county, the relationship between the city and the county? And if so, are you supportive of initiating the process to place EMS levy before the voters at the next election? So direction from both, direction from both bodies will guide the next steps, including the formal formation of a 28E between city and county to start to lay the groundwork so that we can start to form the system. Public engagement for education purposes to be able to so that people fully understand what they'll be voting on if you so choose at the next election. And then coordination of ballot language and election timing. That'll be probably the county's area of responsibility. So, in conclusion, the EMS study presents a clear finding in maintaining the status quo is not an acceptable long-term option. And the recommendation of a unified model provides the opportunity to improve patient outcomes, strengthen system reliability, provide local control and accountability to the EMS system, and ensure long-term financial stability for providing the service to the public. The policy direction at this stage is critical to determine whether the community should move forward with a voter-approved EMS service model. So that is this kind of the 60,000-foot view of the question at hand, and I would open this up to discussion amongst yourselves or answer any questions that you may have to help provide clarity or context.
Does anyone have any questions?
Question, Your Honor. So you want do we need to do a motion and everybody accept it for the EMS as a essential service?
I don't know the answer to that. That would be a policy question that you would have to, the county.
I didn't hear what you said.
So the question is, do we need to make a formal motion that we, first of all, by each step, that one will accept that the EMS is an essential service? Do that by motion and vote to have clear direction.
I think.
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to the question.
I don't think we're quite there yet. Well,
Discussion can happen after that.
I think the discussion can happen here, but what we will need to do is take it back to our separate at a council meeting. And if there's any other questions that need to be cleared up or things that need to be worked on by the task force, that we can take care of those issues. And then the city council can vote separately.
Yeah, so I would just add, I think this is a multi-step process. So tonight's purpose is discussion and to give direction, but the process actually is would be for each of us individually then to go back and go through the steps of, if that's the direction, what would it take for those steps to be done to have an essentials EMS declared an essential service, and then the step to place it on a ballot?
I think for the city also, and the other cities that are represented here, when we get to the point to where everyone is comfortable with the information and understand fully what is going on, that each of the cities put together a letter of support or something like that for this. Because you guys are very important in this. All of us, we have to work together on it, whatever, what we come up with, so that everyone is supportive of it moving forward. And there's not questions in the Facebook warriors and whatever going on, that we can really inform people what this is. This is a very important issue.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I am in support of putting this on the ballot. The one thing I would question is, do we have to do this during the general? It's going to be really hard to message over all the big races that are going on. What are our options for election dates for this?
So I'll defer to Nan on that.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I love it. Jesse Chesak and I did a little research on the Iowa Code chapter that you provided. We only looked at the November timeframe. So if it is at a different time, which normally it would be, and usually March and September are those dates, but without studying it further, now 20 grand-ish is going to go out the door for the election. So just realize that we do have an extra cost. We put it on in November. What I don't know is if we have to wait the 6 months. There used to be some 6-month waiting, but the legislature tends to change all those rules until we can really look at the options if it doesn't pass. But remember, in November, it's free, that part of it.
I like that word.
Free is a word we usually don't hear on these two areas.
The email that I received from Nan is, in order to put it on November, that basically at the end of July, you have to schedule it. And that's for the November. So if we would try to back it up I think that might be a little too big a pill to swallow to get everything so everyone feels comfortable.
Yeah,
that be right?
September would be a huge push.
Yeah.
I just don't, not that there's not, I think a general, we all agree if we dial 911 in emergency, we want an ambulance to come pick us up. But to be able to educate the public on what we're doing here, we need to have time to do that.
Well, even get a consensus between all the bodies.
Yeah, we got all the
Lots
small
of bodies
towns.
here.
You're correct, Greg.
Right.
Yeah,
And the ballot does have to pass by 60%.
it's a 60% pass.
So it's a hard,
Yeah, and
That's-
Nan, do you know, and maybe Kim is the one to answer this, how many counties have already done this? It's several.
I've not been involved in the task force, so I have no knowledge of that.
Last I checked, it was 21 counties.
21?
If my knowledge was not mistaken.
That's a pretty good.
I think you're correct.
Okay.
Please stay. I was trying to stay out of the way.
I know, there's no good spot.
He's not lurking. Okay, other questions for Cret?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I was wondering, do we have information on the EMS levy and like the math on all that? How
Yes.
that's going to be, if you could?
Yeah,
Yes, no.
so in the proposal, we've done some sample calculations about what it would look like. So based on Marshalltown's information and the 0.75 per thousand levy rate for all the assessed value in the county that's able to be included in the essential service levy, it would be anywhere between 1.65 and 1.7 million of revenue generated by the levy. And then the surtax that goes along with it would be somewhere kind of in the $540,000 to $550,000 range that's added to that. And then like the projected EMS revenue based on the run volume and the standard kind of 60% collection rate, which is on the low end of what is able to be collected. That's another 1.65 million. So a total revenue stream between the EMS levy and ambulance billing would be 3.8 million, which would cover, you know, capital and salaries and that sort of thing. That's the back of the napkin math that we've used to project. We've tried to be as conservative on the figures for the taxpayer side of it, and the taxing side of it, and then as non-conservative with the expenses, so that we're kind of we're giving a low expectation but delivering high. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's probably a poor way of describing it, and it feels clumsy just like explaining it to you like that, but that's kind of the way that we've put these numbers together so that it is it's high on one side, low on the other.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, Chief, if you could let us know, so it's like going to be a collaboration between all the cities and Marshall County and the taxpayers here.
That's
to
correct.
Contribute to this.
This would be so. If you imagine creating an EMS district in all of the entire county, Marshall County, and that all of the entirety of the county contributes to run fiscally the EMS system, so that we can ensure that everybody buys into the system, so that we can equip it and staff it and ensure its reliability. What was the second part of your question?
There wasn't a second. It was just kind of
okay.
was understanding it correctly.
Yes.
So when we talk about the numbers and how the taxpayer will contribute to this, is it relative to each city, like for the smaller communities, like how is there a relative tax or anything?
It's consistent
It's
across
consistent,
the. Yeah,
okay.
it's a levy rate per $1,000 of assessed value.
Yes.
So it's not, it doesn't go up and down by usage or geography served. It's consistent across the board.
Okay.
So that it's fair, so that everybody contributes into the system, so that they can have the system.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Chief.
Good question. Thank you.
I believe the max rate is 75 cents per thousand.
Yeah, that's what we figured our numbers on, and obviously you can extrapolate up or down for that.
Chief, there's also some improvements to healthcare in that this could provide, and also help to the EMS in the small towns even.
Oh, yes,
Can you
absolutely.
talk a little bit about that?
Sure. As a part of the essential service levy, there would be each of the EMS services throughout the county would benefit from the revenue generated by this. By, the plan calls for, out of the revenue per year raised by this essential service levy, money would be funneled towards the volunteer, first responder agencies to offset equipment or supplies or training or or what have you, that didn't exist prior to this. So everybody is benefiting financially to bolster the service and to offset costs to each of the individual townships or cities or however their EMS system locally is funded.
And would this entity train everyone as far as training goes? So we have one way to do things, basically.
Well, yes. So no to, we would not do initial training for responders to, I mean, I don't have designs to do that in the plan, but it's certainly possible. But what would happen is there would be kind of a liaison assigned from the system or from the service to go out and be a part of these the outlying system or the outlying services kind of training program where we would come out and talk about policies, procedures, SOGs, continuing education. We would be able to be involved in the development of the individual providers in that method, but this system doesn't provide necessarily yet for the initial training of a group of providers. Not saying that it couldn't. It's just that that's not the way it was designed at this point in time.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry. Your Honor, I have a question for Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you help me to understand, and I know I've heard it before, but it helps the more times you hear it. If I'm understanding this option correctly, the fire department in Marshalltown would house the program
That's correct.
with the staff and the equipment. Can you talk about other cities and communities in our area who have current ambulances and how we would use those?
Sure.
And am I correct in understanding that then the county handles the finances of this?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you
100%.
could just hit those
Yes.
points and
So-
clarify it for me.
So the wonderful partnership between city and county would be kind of hand in hand. So the county is the taxing authority, and they would be the financial driver for staff, capital equipment. We would manage the human resources part of it and be the deliverer of service. We would actually be like it said in the memo, the operational backbone of the providing the EMS to the entirety of the county. Now this is all kind of I don't want to call it speculative, but it's not in the report. But the way that if we were to create an EMS system together, I've had this conversation with a numerous people that have called into my office to ask that very same question. We're not interested in supplanting anybody's capability or service. We're looking to work for them to enhance their service. So what I mean by that is, let's say, well, I'll pick on my friend Chief Fonts, who has an ambulance in his fire station. Awesome. He's got great equipment. We're not going to stand in the way of the State Center Fire Department that wants to transport a patient to the hospital from their community or their fire district or their EMS district, if that's what they want to do. We'll provide them. If they don't have a paramedic, we'll provide one to them. We'll treat this EMS system kind of like a true tiered EMS system, where the lowest level that is capable of dealing with the alarm or the problem or the catastrophe does it, and if they need help, then we'll add help, and we'll build up from there. We're not looking to take over the world. We're not looking to build a dynasty or anything like that. We're looking to be servants. This would be a publicly funded service, we're looking to serve, and that's kind of my theory on administering EMS to the county.
A quick follow-up, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Is State Center the only other community that has an ambulance? Or
No,
does
no, ma'am. The city of Gilman
Gilman, I thought Gilman.
has a nice-looking ambulance as well. Well-staffed, well-equipped by eager young professionals.
They're grinning back there. It's
Good.
like, yeah, no.
Good.
Nice looking.
Yes, it's a handsome rig.
Some cab.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
on that.
ma'am.
And
Good
again,
questions. Thank you very much.
Just trying to think of how
Sue,
it
I'll
would work
just,
together.
I'll chime in if that's okay. I think our discussion around the task force was to really take a look at what the assets are that are currently out there, and how do we support and raise the level of service that we're able to provide by collaborating
Right.
together.
There's a tendency to get territorial and want to turn inward or push away. And I don't want that. I want one huge EMS silo that is the corporate boundaries of Marshall County. That it's a true system. It's not, Marshalltown versus the world, or State Center doesn't like Marshalltown because we stole an axe handle from them at some point in time. This is a true collaborative system, and I believe that if we can educate, illuminate, and then have a vote, I think people will see that at the end of the process, hopefully.
I believe we discussed in the task force how volunteers in the smaller towns are getting thinner and thinner. So if we look down the road 20 years, we don't know what some of these towns will have. So
And we want there to be no differentiation in the professionalism and care that everybody gets. Everybody's entitled to, in my opinion, it might be pie in the sky, but I think everybody is entitled to receive that emergency care. I think it should be handled at the state level, just like the requirements for police and fire, where municipalities are required by code to provide that. That way, I mean, if it was, I understand why it's not, because it's a relatively new invention. It didn't really come to prominence until the late 60s, early 70s, post-Vietnam. So in the grander scheme of the entire history of the country, it's a very small, it's a 55-year window-ish that EMS has been around. So it's a baby.
Well, and I think it's likely too, based on our discussion, that what we establish initially, based on, direction from these bodies, may evolve, and we expect it to evolve.
Yeah.
As we identify what's the best way to serve everyone in the county.
There's management and oversight after a successful essential service vote. An EMS board has to be constructed, made up of the public. So, a lot of it may be some of the task force members that currently serve. I will exclude myself because I'll be part of the delivery. I don't think I should be a part of the oversight and management of the system as a whole. I want to be a servant to the system, and so there's provisions to be able to make sure that what we say we're going to do, we do, and if things need to change based on the board or changing winds in EMS, then we can do that.
Errol, did you want to talk just a little bit about billing and reimbursements and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we had quite a bit of discussion, and Ron Alston is here from Unity Point Health too, but we had quite a bit of discussion at the task force, trying to understand why Unity Point Health is in a financial difficulties with this operation. And I think there was some confusion initially about how the hospital is able to collect fees for emergency transport. And hospital reimbursement, so our understanding of it, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but our understanding of it was that hospital reimbursement, particularly for our size hospital, changed considerably when the Affordable Care Act was enacted. And that restricted the hospital to be able to bill for services based on diagnosis and treatment, as opposed to just fee for service. Whereas, Brad or Jacob and Gilman and State Center are not limited to billing based on treatment. They can bill fee for service. But because the ambulance department is a department of our hospital, they only get paid if the person is transported to that hospital and treated at that hospital. So if they go out on a call and the person doesn't return, there's no compensation. If they go out on a call and the person is automatically transported elsewhere because of whatever they're dealing with, they don't get reimbursed for that. They're not able to bill for that. And so what you'll find, or when you start looking around the state, is that there are very few hospitals that provide EMS transport. I think only 3 or 4 in the state anymore. So most of this is not done by a hospital. It's not hospital-based at all. And it's because it's difficult for hospitals to make that work financially and make it sustainable.
Your Honor?
Also, I don't, Medicare, Medicaid, they don't fully reimburse.
Well, no, when you're a hospital, you take what you get. Medicare gets to decide how much they pay you, and Medicaid does as well. So you can charge a certain amount, but you only get paid what they say you get paid. And Iowa is one of the lowest Medicare reimbursement states in the country.
And we have quite a few uninsured people, but still deserve ambulance service.
Question, Your Honor. So is the model on the reimbursement based on the fact that we can charge the difference between what Unity Point was able to do and what we could do if we offered it?
Yes, sir. There's also some other, Your Honor, if I might just add, there are some other things that we as a municipality who transports patients to the hospital can take advantage of that a non-municipal service cannot. One of those programs is called GEMT, Ground Emergency Medical Transport, which is an HHS federal program that offsets the cost of like non-transports, refusals, that sort of thing. So we could submit those through a third-party billing agency and gain reimbursement for some runs where we normally wouldn't be reimbursed for as well. So that's an advantage of being a municipality and providing that service. It's another cost offset.
Mr. Mayor. Okay, so I'll be supportive of this. I've been, I've said that I recognize like the effort that's been put into this.
Thank you.
And I've been like planting those seeds on people, telling them that if this goes up in November, to vote yes.
Thank you.
So I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
On people have, done some pushback on me.
Of course.
So what those are like kind of like what are they going to benefit? I've gotten that is Unity Point going to get the amount that you guys will be charging them? Is Unity Point just getting this money? Can you clarify that for us?
Yes, of course. I have your email in front of me. Would you like me to just go down the list?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Question 1, how much would a Marshalltown resident save on average for ambulance services? I don't know the answer to that. It's unknown. That's an unknowable unknown until the system's up and operating. I think, to be perfectly blunt, I think it'll cost everybody on the front side to be able to buy the system and set the system up. Where I think that citizens will see advantage, at least from my perspective, is I think we'll provide an extraordinary high level of customer service we're your fire department, you already know us, we're close. We have the ability to be able to give the patient options that perhaps weren't available before if you want to go to Ames or Nevada or Des Moines. I don't want to go to Rochester, Minnesota or Iowa City, but at least not in an emergent fashion. So I think there's freedom to choose destination, I think is a benefit as well. If a Marshalltown resident is billed for ambulance service, would the entire amount go to the city or the county? So the county is the fiscal driving agent for this project. All ambulance billing would go back to the taxing authority because they set up the financials for the system on the front side. So whatever ambulance revenue would ultimately go to the county for accounting purposes. And then there's a constant flow of resources into the county, to the city, and then back out, and it's kind of a revolving, I don't want to call it a self-sustaining machine, but it is a financial kind of a windmill machine type of situation. So all ambulance tax revenue and all ambulance billing goes to the county. Does that make sense?
And the goal is a sustainable model.
Yes, absolutely. And how we've presented it, it is sustainable. So that's a good question. Is that cool?
Yep, yep. And these aren't my questions.
No, I understand.
Questions I've
No, that's
received. Yep.
I just want to make sure that we address everything.
Yep.
If that's okay,
Cool.
please
Yep.
forgive me
Yep.
in my long-windedness. Why would the fire department be involved in the ambulance service? I think that we are best suited to provide the service to the community. We already exist. We already have a facility. We already have management. We already have the response model laid out. We know where everybody is, and we know the city. We're familiar with the geography. Everywhere I have worked as a young fire paramedic, 97% of those agencies were fire-based. And I really only have the vast majority of my formative years as a firefighter and paramedic have been in a fire-based EMS. It's very, very common. And I think we're naturally suited to provide the service and the mission. Why do we need this if we already have ambulances operating in Marshalltown? I think we've covered that. The business model for Unity Point, they have a challenging situation that they found themselves in. They have provided 55 years or so of dedicated service. They provided an unfunded mandate that was morally required of them. God bless them for doing it. But it is a business, whether it's for profit or not for profit, and you have to think about how you sustain whatever it is, whatever business model you choose to create for your organization and make it have longevity. I don't feel, from the outside looking in, that EMS transport for Unity Point is a long-term success. I think it's a liability for them. And it's not because they're not great people and they provide great service, because they do. I think it's a matter of dollars and cents. Can we make ambulance an essential service and force, this is not my words, force Unity Point to pay for it? No, we cannot do that. That's heavy-handed, and I don't think that would be political suicide for all of us if we chose to take that line in the tech.
I agree with many people out there that I think the there's going to be educational hurdles.
Yes.
But yeah, hopefully we have time to focus on it.
I really appreciate your questions, and I'm always at your service to answer whatever you need to have answered. So just, I'm at all of your service.
I do believe, in talking about financial strain, if you've been following the last couple of years, several hospitals have closed in Iowa. Ottumwa, Keokuk comes to mind. They don't have a hospital anymore because of the financial pressures. So I like having a hospital here. They're a good bunch. The last thing that I want to do is put extra financial pressure on them. I know that we have 2 more hospitals within about 75 miles that are on the endangered list. It could close, and we certainly don't want that here.
Your Honor, may I?
Lost funding was mentioned, but no dollar amount next to that. Is that just a backup, or?
Are you referring to local option sales tax? I don't have that in the plan.
Okay, I
Yep.
thought I heard that.
Is it that 1% surtax? What is that 1%
So
surtax?
what that is it's a provision in law that allows, I wrote some notes on it. So what that is in the essential services levy, or it's either 422 or 357F, which is the district. It's an estimated 1% tax on the state tax individual income of tax liability. So it's an individual tax liability surcharge that we have the ability, according to law, to enact that.
So,
And that's on income?
so
Yes.
no, that's on what you would pay for income tax for the state of Iowa.
Oh, yes, yes.
0.01% of that you'd add. So if you had a average $2,500 tax liability to the state of Iowa, you'd pay $25 a year towards the ambulance service.
Yep.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes, you may.
How many additional units would be added? We've got the one from State Center and then the one down in Gilman.
Those units aren't built into the plan because those are the city of Gilman's units, and that's the city of State Center's fire
Okay, then
apparatus.
how
Yep.
many units then
Yep.
would we be
You
asking
bet.
for?
Let me look this up for you here. I apologize. Let me flip some pages here nervously. So I think what we're doing is we like to add, that's like four units. We like to add 4 units to the system. Have 3 be housed in Marshalltown, and 1 be housed co-located with the State Center Fire Department.
It's 4.
It's 4,
yeah.
yeah. And the associated personnel that go along with that would be 28 individuals that need to be hired to be able to staff those units, a combination of both EMTs and paramedics.
Go ahead.
When you talk about the staffing, would the Unity Point staff be brought in? Would we use any of their ambulances that they currently have? It would be, everything would be starting from scratch. Those people could apply for these jobs or
Yeah.
want to be, if they wanted to be involved.
Yes.
But there's nothing natural that's going to flow.
That's correct.
Okay, basically starting fresh.
Yes, ma'am.
Fresh page.
Yeah, Unity
Well,
Point
and that-
doesn't owe,
Yeah, let me just
Yeah, they don't
clarify
owe-
too. Unity Point will still need ambulances.
Yes.
They'll still need their staff
Transport.
because they transport within their facilities and to other
Yeah.
facilities, so.
they'll still be part of this, they'll still be part of the system, that their availability will change and their responsibilities will change. They still need to retain as much staff and as many units as they need to based on what their mission becomes.
Well, and they are a resource as well in this and a partner in this because, you know, they're committed to helping make sure that the county and the city are successful with it.
100%.
Will these ambulances, will they do regular transport services? You know, a lot of times like in Des Moines or other areas, they have private ambulances that will take someone who needs to go to a skilled care facility in Ames. Will this entity do those types of transport, or will that be, will we have to use another service for that?
Well, that's not how the system was initially intended to be set up as. Now, once the system becomes up and operational, that would be something that we could discuss. But at this point, we're looking just to get the service off the ground to provide emergency transportation from people in the wilderness to a hospital.
Thank you.
It's a little bit higher of an acuity and a little bit more time sensitive than those scheduled interfacility transfers. And I can't comment on that yet because it's unknowable.
Your Honor?
Yes.
How much of a time period is there to get these additional units? Would we be looking for a used unit, or like, would it be brand new units, which we would have to wait 2 years like we have to do for our police cars? And
I don't know the answer to that. If you were to tell me I need to build out an EMS system, that would probably be my first choice, either used units or demonstrators, enough to get the capability in-house with the appropriate equipment and the staffing. The equipment doesn't bother me, the staffing does. The human element that's key to this whole system will be, it's not challenging, it's just going to take some time to be able to build capability. And if we so choose to do this and it's successful at the end of the day, there would need to be a ramp up and a ramp down with the capabilities of our situation, and a ramp down sharing the load with Unity Point, so that it's not turn the faucet on, turn the faucet off.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your question.
Does anyone else have questions?
Any questions from the peanut gallery? Chief, question for you.
Yes.
So,
I don't know where.
Come on up to the microphone.
a question that's been asked to me by people about this, and I have the same concern or question, I guess. With this being an essential service, if it's approved in Marshall County, my job ends at the county borders, but we know fire and EMS districts overlap into neighboring counties. Neighboring county does not have that as an essential service or a tax levy for it, but our service extends into their service area. How does that work for the taxpayers of both of those counties affected?
That's a good question. As it exists currently, we would need to pursue an intergovernmental agreement, a 28E, with any agencies or jurisdictions that are outside the corporate borders of our first due area, which would be countywide. So governments, as you well know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, I'm not trying to talk down to you, so please forgive me. As it sits today, the city of Marshalltown, the Marshalltown Fire Department has 28E agreements with Story County, Polk County, Jasper County. We will go wherever we're asked to go. And those are all agreements that council has signed. You know, the supervisor signed those too, I'm sure. So if we needed to go somewhere and they're non-contributory to the system, then we would work it out as an intergovernmental agreement for service as needed. I'm not interested in pursuing any kind of like long-term contracts or anything like that for coverage for at least not at the beginning while the system's still in its infancy. But I would certainly entertain, the 28E, because I think that's being a good neighbor. To answer your question, sir? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Hank Penner.
You need to, yeah.
Mayor Bliscombe. I know. A couple of questions. We are on the north end of the county. To my estimation, we're about 30 minutes from ambulance call to ambulance arrived. In that amount of time, we could actually be in Grundy Center. So is there a plan that this service will be able to utilize Grundy Center or some of the other facilities?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you for the question, sir. I feel horrible turning my back to you as I'm answering your question. So, so please, I mean no disrespect when I do that, but it's for the benefit of the microphone. I'm clumsy. I apologize for being so awkward. I don't mean to be. I think that I'm interested in making whatever system exists the best for the patients. And if it means that you can achieve better service from a closer system someplace else, then you should do that. Whatever's the best for the people, whatever's the best for the patient who's sick. You know, I have no dogma, and I don't want to be rigid with any of it. We're setting the system up to help people, and if the end goal, I'm sorry if people can't hear me at home, if the end goal is to get the patient off of the X and into definitive care as quickly as humanly possible, then we should foster those behaviors when they present themselves or they exist in the real world. I don't want to get in the way of anybody doing anything that they want to do. I just want to make sure that we set up a good system so that it's flexible, comprehensive, consistent, and reliable. Not that any other system is not, but those are kind of my big four as I see EMS as it exists in my brain from my perspective in history.
And Chief, I think, too, it's important to clarify that, you know, the law governs some of that on how people have to be transported, depending on, you know, what their situation is and the level of care needed. Actually, it's required by law to take them to the nearest ER in some cases.
Yes, in some cases. That's a wonderful qualifier.
Chief, Your Honor, when we talked about, in particular, the ALS, on average, and I think without exception, it's a better outcome for those types of measures like heart, that you actually get to a specialty hospital faster, no matter where you are in the county. Isn't that true?
Yes, I would agree with that, yes. You have a cardiac, and I understand who's in the audience. There's some experts in cardiology and trauma, and I hope that they don't throw tomatoes at me from what I'm about to say, because I think it's accurate. You. I think you should treat trauma and stroke and cardiac type incidents the same. You have the insult to the system, biological system in your body. Then you have from the time that it happens to the time where you call 911 to the time that you arrive. And then you have to eat up some transport time in order to get to definitive care, whether that be a cath lab, a stroke center, or a trauma center. And I think that if we can get resources to patients and utilize everything in the arsenal, progressive type medical protocols to be able to give medications to people or transmit 12 lead EKGs to cardiac centers and declare level 1 cardiac type events for people, or to utilize AeroMed. Although it's a more expensive option, it exists and it's a time saver. So anything that we can do to just push the football forward and give them the best chance to have a positive outcome, I think is where we should be. That's a wonderful question. Thank you.
Come on up front.
Are you going to fact check me now?
My name is Heather Groby. I am here as a citizen. Just to be transparent, I am a paramedic in the ER. I don't run on the ambulance anymore. And I've been in EMS in this county through all the different phases from Marshalltown Medical Surgical Centers, Central Iowa Healthcare, and now Unity Point Health. My question is, does this current plan take into consideration us having to be very competitive with what we offer the folks, the 28 or so folks that Chris is talking about, to come in as new EMS providers?
Maybe salary-wise?
Yes.
I believe that's an unknowable unknown at this time, where I think that puts the cart way before the horse. Without having studied surrounding salaries of like jobs with like volume, with like job descriptions, I can't answer that, and I don't know that that would come from me. I think that would probably come from HR, and I can't answer that. But I would say that if they're just doing some logic, I think that if they were going to be employees of the fire department, I think all of our pay scales are online. It's public record, and I do believe that it would be, if we kept them in line with that doctrine, I think it would be very attractive with the schedule, the benefits, and the salary. I think if we offered this opportunity to providers to come recruit them to our system, I believe that we would become even more of a destination fire department than we already are, because we're a draw, I think, for some people that operate in the same business as us, because I think we have a lot to offer. And I think that if we were to do this, I worry about hiring a bunch of people. I think we could get it done. It's just going to take some time. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. Maddie Welton, Haverhill Mayor. You mentioned that this was sustainable financially. The goal. And my concern would be years, say you get it started and a few years later, I mean, people need raises, right? And we need to, so what happens when there isn't enough money to continue to pay these people, or to fix the ambulances, or to buy new ambulances? I'm looking 10 years, maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Is there a plan in place to, I mean, are you going to increase the charges of these people who are getting rides? Marshall, do we want to have more people in Marshalltown, build more people in the county? How are we going to pay for this later on without taxing the public more? And I know there's a cap on this, but there's always a different kind of tax that we're going to charge, or something else out there. So that's my concern.
Well, I mean, I can speak, and Chris, you feel free to chime in, or Mike, but, the goal is to work within the funds that we can determine that are available. If Marshall County grows, the tax base grows, your dollars grow, So without taxing individuals necessarily more, you're growing your tax base to provide more resources for this service. That is the overall overarching goal.
I don't, speaking from our side, we think it's a sustainable goal. The costs that are in that report are high, and we figured the income as low. So we've got a cushion, somewhat of a cushion in there. That, we're going to be learning as we go some of this. Can we do this? Can we not do that? What kind of billing service do we use? Everything like that. So I agree with Carol, though. I think it's a doable thing. And I think it's something that we could all be proud of if we work together.
Your Honor, I think we should, this is, again, putting the cart way before the horse, but the way that we all in government, I please, to the mayors in the audience, I know you guys understand how government works, but there's normal capital improvement plans that are made 5 years, 10 years, and there's also capital funds that are siphoned away and put away for future capital improvement as well. So, we'll be judicious with the way that we manage budgets and plan for capital. The greatest thing that we can do is forecast and plan and not get caught, in the rain without an umbrella. Not everything is foreseeable, and I understand that. However, we try to engineer the most out of it as we can. I know that seems like a political answer. That's not my intent, but that's the way that we operate.
How's it going? Nick Heinz. First, I want to preface this as I'm a citizen of Cedar Rapids. I'm no longer representing Unity Point effective last week, so this is my personal opinion, not Unity Point's opinion. Obviously, most of you on here know me. If you don't, I was your ambulance manager and director for the last 8 years for Unity Point Health Marshalltown. I will tell you that it's been a struggle at best through the transitions, and I think first I want to take a moment to thank the community since I only agreed to come here once and this is it. The people like Amy over at Lily Mays or Tremont and stuff, those business owners went out of their way to make the ambulance service feel welcome and the staff. At one time, over 70% of our staff lived an hour away. This was not their home. They had no intentions of being part of the community. They had intentions of working a job, but in turn it became part of their community. And that's part of the reason I did leave this job, is it revigorated me to go back to my local community, which is Cedar Rapids, and be more active in Cedar Rapids. Obviously a 1 hour drive, it's hard, but with my cancer diagnosis this last year, that's become a bigger issue, and community is more important. But I just wanted to say that, first of all, as the community of Marshalltown and Marshall County, especially elected officials, and I always look at Ben and the sheriff, been very supportive of Unity Point Health through all these transitions. There's a couple of questions that Jeff's brought up, and he's on the right page, and I had to come up here and say that. These programs, last I knew, and Heather could correct me, but she shouldn't, because Heather is a wealth of information. Marshall County, I think, is still going to be one of the largest ones to go forward with this. And the biggest reason is politics. And the best way to show people those politics is, why doesn't the sheriff provide law enforcement for the city of Marshalltown? Easy, because the city of Marshalltown said we're providing our own law enforcement. You know, there's codes, there's different things that required them to do that. But that also gives them clear political definitions. And I mean, and we always hear the argument, if there's not enough police on, just call the sheriff. Sheriff's unavailable, call the state. And each of those people have pushbacks because they have different scopes. That's part of EMS's issue right now. And I think that's where the hardship and the sensitivity comes with this. So I appreciate Ms. Cahill bringing it up, but also the people sitting out here. Phil's sitting behind me, and Phil's one of the first people I learned 8 years ago, and that was his passion for Gilman Ambulance. So when you guys are talking about a joint venture, to some people it's also taken away their dream and pursued a bigger good. So there is a sensitivity to that, but it's also how do you onboard them on that? And so that's one thing that several parties have come forward to me is asking, how do we acknowledge the work that has been done and not saying there's anything wrong with it? And that's where I will tell you part of where some of my heartburn come with this is, you know, improved patient outcomes. There's not a problem with the patient outcomes in this county. You know, it's the fact that we still need to be flexible to technologies, to the current items before us, and how do we research-based, evidence-based is what I'm thinking of. So when, like Jeff brings up a good point, should they be at the specialty center? As somebody that may or may not have seen the backside of it the last 8 years, they don't want you in their ER. They want you in their cath lab. They want you to your surgeon. We can do the ER visit here. We can do the imaging they need as they're getting on the helicopter and get arranged for that cath lab team to be there or that specialist to be there. So, and I think I'd probably yell at Gary because he could probably be the one that probably sees it the most, is at Tremont when you see Dr. Foley's wife. She takes great pride in what Dr. Foley did for this community and what he did actually for the state when it comes to trauma care. So, the recent trauma guidelines came out, and pretty much unless it's the worst of the worst, you go to your local hospital. They do the stabilization, then they get you to where you need to go. So that's the first thing I'd point out is you say a lot of times improve patient outcomes. Don't make the image out there that the outcomes aren't good. You got Angie sitting back here who goes on 90% of Melbourne's calls, but I still see her at work every day when we go to her workplace for calls. I don't know how she does it. But at the end of the day, they're getting great care. And that's the one thing I'd point out is kind of watch how we say some of those things, improve patient care. There's talking here about ALS services going to the county more. It's my understanding, since I'm not on behalf of Unity Point, but just as recent as when I was last week, all of our trucks were ALS level. And the reason is because we had a dual EMT truck during COVID. And everybody remembers it because KCCI told me my application got approved before even the state did. We downgraded to an EMT level service. And the biggest reason was during COVID, EMS was leaving nonstop. They're going to clinics, they're getting burned out. What truly happened was we had a paramedic unit on a nursing home abnormal lab call when a CPR code dropped. And we're like, what are we doing here, you know? So we changed. We went to a matrix. We showed innovation. And we opted for a dual EMT truck. Jordan back there also worked on as an advanced EMT and stuff. These guys nailed it. And so when we talk about ALS and BLS, it is pretty much what Jeff said. We're talking about heart attacks, we're talking about anaphylaxis, where some sort of pharmaceutical intervention this second that needs to be done. But even advanced EMTs can do that. So that'd be the thing I'd challenge everybody to remember is don't underscore the value of EMRs, EMTs, and AMTs in this community, because that highlights one thing I wanted to throw out is this comes up a lot. The 30-day termination clause that's in those contracts. If you look at every state agency, they're all 30 days. Why? Because we all use the same templated state form. I mean, we all cheated. We all used it. Go online, look up Mary Greeley's. Last I knew they were still on there, 30 days. All you have to do is ask. So if there's that big of an issue with it right now, I can't speak for Ron, but I got $5 that probably says he'd look at and say, what do you want it to be? It hasn't been brought up. Just bring it up. And for the indication that there's only one city in this county that doesn't have coverage by agreement with UniPoint, that's false. I can't tell you who the other ones are, but that's a false assertion. So to think that UniPoint's going to pull the rug out, they haven't yet, so stop saying that. The second thing that came up was patient choice. This has always been a heartburn one because a lot of people don't know who I am. I live in Cedar Rapids. I want to go back to St. Luke, Cedar Rapids. So if I have a heart attack right now, Rhonda, I want your ambulance to take me back to Cedar Rapids. That's where my family is. Is it logical? No, because the nearest hospital is in Marshalltown, and it has great level of care. The only reason I want to go to Cedar Rapids, that's where my family's going to be at. Less of a drive for them. Will insurance pay for it? No, absolutely not, because most insurance companies say closest facility that has the services. Our ER does. And so that's always been a patient choice issue that we've had and struggled with is where's the line at with it? And that's actually one of the questions I asked the consultant to write down, is how do you decide patient choice when there's an accident right outside here and there's 3 patients, 3 ambulances, and they all want to go to Des Moines? Who's doing the rest of your coverage for the next 3 hours because everybody's in Des Moines? And you aren't going to get paid for it because it's not the closest appropriate facility. And so that's one thing I challenge people when they talk about patient choice is make sure you know where that is. Obviously, the supplies, I actually agree with everybody. Now that I'm not with UniPoint, so I can say it. I was the one that made the rule that said that we had to lock it and do one-on-one. But I was the volunteer in Lynn County that ran into the ambulance when they were in the call and grabbed 2 of everything real quick, you know, because that's how we got our supplies. There was no money. So why don't we deal with that issue? And that's why I applaud the study saying it, is stop making it so people have to rob Peter to pay Paul or whatever saying you want, add to it. Give them the resources, and this can. The things you're talking about, it's nothing new, but I challenge you to look at the counties that have passed this vote, but they still don't have the service. And hypothetically, there might be one just east of Iowa City that's in that jam up. And when I spoke to him, it's because there's an ambulance service doing a great job. They just aren't county-wide. So you got the county saying, give us something. You got this service saying, we're doing a great job, just give us the money. They still can't come at the impasse. And so I challenge you to look at everybody that's actually passed this. I also challenge you to think about EMTs. I think Chief Cross is right that the fire service is good for this. And the reason is because the average EMT and paramedic will stay at their job for 9 months, and they'll burn out 7 to 10 years, and that you need to expect as EMS agency a 30% annual turnover. That's straight up from the Ambulance Service Association. But what does the fire service give you? Promotion. You know, if I don't want to do ambulance anymore, I can go ride the fire engine all day or move up to be chief. You know, who knows? He's a paramedic, right?
Maybe.
There is, exactly. There is no career ladder in EMS. And that's our own fault. And that's the chief alluded to. It's only 50 years old, but we use that as an excuse way too much. We don't have the lobbying power, and all of our 4 founders only cared about one thing, and that was the patient. They didn't care about sustainability because they thought what you did was great, but automatically carried on, and unfortunately it did not. So I ask you to think about that. some of the finance numbers, I'm not gonna lie to you, if it was making that much money, there'd be 10 ambulance services sitting out here right now, salespeople actually making you a deal right now. So I caution you on money associated with this. But there's 70, I did this research just before I came in. There's 77 licensed EMS providers in Marshall County that use Marshall County as their residence. It's the easiest way to get. 18 of them are paramedics. One of them's sitting right there. He's not going on ambulance calls right now. He will if you ask him, though. I'll give you that. But there's also several that are retired. There's several with other jobs. That all of a sudden, you're only down to about 2 or 3 paramedics in this county that we're all fighting over for the job. Then you look at advanced EMTs, 4. That's it. 4 reside in this county. So 29% of your ambulance registered people for this county are at the advanced level. It highlights what the state put out in their report this last year about, I think if I remember correctly, I don't want to flip through it to waste your time, it's like 60% of people passed their paramedic their first attempt. So you guys are going out saying you got to hire 28 people. I'm telling you right now, if you can do it, man, I'm coming to work for you because you made it happen. Because that's the problem, is it's not being happening. The education centers are broken down in this state. The volunteerism's broken down, which used to get us our paid people, and then to get them back to their communities. So it's bigger than that. I also challenge you on one other thing that the chief brought up, and I can't speak on their behalfs. I know Phil's here and a couple others. McKimsa, there is a county EMS association already. Where are they at? I missed them when the introductions. Because at the end of the day, if I had my dream, I'll be blunt. I would throw the survey out, or throw the consultant report out, and I'd ask for data. I want to know what I should expect for turnover rates in this community. I want to know what I should expect for pay to get people in here. I want to understand a little better what the state's doing with this recent grant from the federal government that they just applied for that comes, I think it's short of $1 billion with the rural health grant. I've seen some proposals on the EMS side that I may not have, should have seen about stuff on that. So what are they doing about a statewide approach to this item before we get too going? But I would actually say, obviously, put Unity Point under a 3-year agreement. Who cares? Ask them, you know. Somebody just needs to go and ask around that. If we're worried about 30 days, what's a year to you? What's 3 years to you? And this 1.7 million. And I know part of what I'm talking about, since I'm not a resident, is just people come up anecdotally telling me stuff. They said, that's not money. That's not cash. That's taxes. That's coming out of my pocket. Don't assume you have it. You took it from me. And I'm like, that's an awesome point. And so that'd be one thing I'd challenge you on, is when you start talking about 1.7 million, my suggestion would be pay Unity Point the annual for 3 years, take the other $700,000, invest in your capital, go to these first responder services and ask them, Brad at State Center, do you want to run your ambulance or not? Gilman, do you want to run it or not? And the fire service already does this with townships, and the money goes back to the township level. Let the townships decide. So I think those are my gripes I wanted to throw out real quick, because some of you are asking the right questions, but you need to take it a step further. You're on the right target. You're doing the right questions and stuff. Unity Point's treated me well. I got my opinions, and I'll keep them myself. But there's one opinion that you can't take away that I'll say, and that's I will put that service against any ambulance service in the state. And it's because the community support, the hospital support, the chief's support, he shows up and supports us on stuff. And so I ask that you don't take that away. The fact is, it is one of the best ambulance services in the state. Just unfortunate, the hospitals are getting out of it for the exact thing that Carol alluded to, is that fee service. When Jeff comes in with a bum knee, the charge is on the bum knee. It's not the charge on each of the things in it. And that's what gets us. Also, what gets us is the GMT funding we can't apply for. We can't apply for the firefighters grants. They can get you fire trucks and all that stuff. We can't apply for that. Fire service has the 7K exemption, where if you're fire suppression based, you don't follow the same 40-hour week laws that Unity Point has to. So there is a bunch of things that go towards the fire service. But also, there's one thing I forgot to tell you. My background is not on the paid fire service. My background is being sheriff rescue for Lynn County. The sheriff's office owned the extra element. And the reason is, it goes back to the same concept. You need to get more bang for your buck. So what else can they do? Unity Point is not going to be out snow plowing your drives for you and stuff like that. We are a city agency. The fire service can do stuff. The sheriff can do stuff. Public Works can even do stuff. You know, a lot of volunteer services were based on city workers that actually would respond to calls. So I just challenge you to keep looking at that, but I also wanted to let you guys know I felt most of the questions you guys were asking are 100% right on, because those are the same questions that are getting asked in, let's say, perhaps Cedar, Buchanan, these other counties that are wrestling. It's not necessarily to vote, but what are we going to do when you get that type of money? It's 1.7 million is no joke, as you guys know. I'll take any questions if you have any, but I'm not Unity Point, but I might know the answer. Perfect. See you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Not to be monopolizing here or anything.
Well, you're from Liscum, so.
From the big city of Liscum. But a couple of points. Unity Point, I'm here alive because of Unity Point, okay? So the level of care, I don't think is a question. I don't think anybody should have a question about that. All right? We do have an issue with ambulance service, and we need to figure out a way to provide that. Now, money keeps coming up. And come November, if this is on the ballot, money is going to be a big thing. I have a rule. The first time I see an increase in my taxes or a potential increase, my vote is no. If I know anything about it, I might think about it, but otherwise it's no. County, has there been any thought of possibly offsetting or partially offsetting that 0.75%? That 75 cents?
We haven't had any discussion yet
Okay,
about that.
I knew the answer to that. This was brought up several years ago when the 911 got instituted. Okay, and my answer always was no. We're not going to offset this. We're not going to reduce our tax load. Okay, so and that's just something because I'm going to have to help sell this. Okay.
Yes, you are.
And I'm also, like I mentioned, I'm also a subject of the medical community. So am I concerned about the availability of an ambulance when I want one? Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
I had 2 of them already here lately. All right. So, I guess we need to figure it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ron Alston. I am the interim executive director at the hospital. So Sherry King is not here. She has some big shoes, so I'm putting my feet inside of those. What I want to tell all of you, Unity Point is here and loves this community, and we're here to work with Chris and everybody else to make this what it needs to be. And if any of you are thinking that we're running away, we're not running away. This is just a strategic thing that we're vested in, and we're in this community. So I want to confirm that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Evan Folk, City of Laurel. One question I had for everybody is, the county is currently under a complete countywide revaluation for the tax appraisals. Has there been any figuring done on a lower rate as far as what the overall taxable value is of the properties in the county? Because we're assuming at A today, and is that the correct thing to do, or do we need to think about how we can operate at an overall lower amount of money?
I guess my response would be yet to be determined, Devin. I mean, we're just preliminarily getting into the reevaluation of things. So, we're not out to take more than we need.
Right. I just don't want it to be a surprise.
Anyone else? Carol, how would you like to proceed?
Well, if there are no further questions from the bodies, we can do up or down on proceeding with the recommendation as Chris presented it, or we can take that back and do it individually, individual bodies.
Counselors, what would you like to do?
Your Honor, I do have one question.
Okay.
Could we bring Ron up from Unity Point?
Ron? You were looking pretty comfortable back there anyway.
Well, Ron, I appreciated that you saying that Unity Point would support us with this because it's a brand new thing. It's going to be up for the voters, 60% or more. So when it is up and running and however long that takes to get the staff, to get the equipment, to get all the towns involved and everything going, it may take some time. So will Unity Point stay however long to provide the services until we get it to the efficient, best system that we can get it to?
Well, I don't know if I can say, yes, we will, if it takes 10 years or 5 years. What I can tell you is we want to be good partners. I think we've been good partners from the beginning of this. Yes, sir. And we will continue to be good partners. We'll have conversations, I'm sure, as things progress. But if you're saying, I just told you that this community is supported by Unity Point, we will continue to support this community. Strategically, we do have to look at what is it, what is our investment in this and how long will that investment take to get you where you need to be. Those are discussions we'll just be open to have.
Okay, sounds good, because knowing that the Unity Point has been involved since 1969 and to just completely, change to a whole county initiative and a system that we have yet to see. And so just knowing that we have that support there, that's what we need. I think that's a good thing for us to know.
I think we've been at the table, and we'll continue to be at the table. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Honor, would we be making a motion then to vote here as to proceed with the situation, or what?
No,
would our
I don't
game plan-
believe so.
Okay.
I think that should be back at council level to proceed,
Yeah.
and the county can do
I
the
think
same.
it's just a consensus of, what, I don't know that it's an official vote tonight, but I think as Chris requested, if everyone is in favor of that, then that's what we can expect when we go back to our respective bodies to vote.
So I'll put in my 2 cents, and I think we absolutely need to go forward with this, and that EMS is an essential service as well.
Your Honor, while both bodies are here, do we need to determine what we think the election date should be? This is going to be, I brought it up, but I didn't hear anybody really respond. We've got a lot of work ahead of us educating people. I just do not think the general is the time. I just don't think the message will be heard. People won't know what they're voting on. I think we could definitely wait till March on this. So I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are.
I would say I think we definitely need to wait till a longer time because we have a lot of communities, a lot of people to get on board with this. The more people you have involved, the longer it takes to get everything, all that message communicated in a clear way that people can understand.
Invite my other 2 colleagues here to weigh in.
I don't think we'll be ready in November. It's just my opinion this is, when you're talking $1.7 million to the county tax, and that's going to be 9 to 10% tax increase. And we know that a lot of people, when you hear tax increase, they automatically say no. Now, in this case, when you're talking EMS, essential services, I think probably almost everybody would agree that should be essential services. Now, how should it be paid is then the next question that I think everyone has that debate on. When you look at this, we got $1 million problem right now, but we're adding $3.8 million to that problem, and we better be sustainable. That's the thing I got out here is I'm not certain that we have this set up with the staffing level. Can we get that 28 staff for the projection that we have, keep this thing sustainable? Because the last thing we want to do is create a new level of government and then say, whoops, we can't make this work. And so I think that's the key thing. We got to really fine tune this plan for it to be viable and sustainable in the future. And I think that legwork that we do, a little bit more time, allows for that to come to fruition.
Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment. There's a lot of legwork that needs to be done on educating, and being we're just on the ground level here, 60,000 foot view, overview. I'm really, I guess, curious to see what that education looks like and how effective that can be in educating the public. And I definitely agree that November is going to be too early to effectively do that, considering all the details that need to be ironed out. That should be absolutely smoothed over before this goes to a vote.
Should we ask the people at the table, are you generally in favor of moving forward with an EMS service as it's presented?
Knowing there's a lot of things to still work out.
That we do
have to take
have,
action on it
yeah, I
move
want to make
forward.
sure that we don't have some hard nose for some reason, or some super concerns.
I think the task force just needs the consensus to move forward with fleshing out the details, working on some of the costs and the revenue, and to really get the plan nailed down. But we don't want to try and push that forward if there's going to be resistance, strong resistance from either of the groups.
Is it our consensus for Marshalltown to move forward with this as Carol described it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. How about you guys?
Is it our consensus?
I agree that EMS is a essential service to our community, and that there are things that were brought up tonight that do concern me a little bit as far as the staffing and making sure that's viable long term. So I think once we can just kind of clarify issues like that, it would be a lot easier to go all in. But we do need to move forward in some sense, because the status quo is not working. So we have to move the needle. We have to keep moving forward and working through these details as they come up, I guess, is where I'm at right now with it.
I'd like to move forward, but really iron these details out for us to feel, we need to feel comfortable, and the public needs to feel comfortable that this is fully sustainable going into the future before we dive fully in. So I want to move forward, but we want to be certain what we're getting into.
And I would just add that we appreciate the patience of Unity Point and their willingness to stay at the table and provide services while we work through this. But there is some urgency in moving forward, so we just need to keep it moving.
Does any of the representatives or mayors representing here, are you in general agreement of the direction we're going? I see a lot of heads nodding yes. Yes. Yes, sir.
General direction, what do you mean, general direction?
That we're going to work out the details to it, some of the issues that were brought up, and that have the whole package put together where we can turn around and figure out our vote date and all that kind of thing, to make sure everybody has everything.
I think a lot of us, like was mentioned, the essential service, it is an essential service, right? Whether we codify that or whatever. But the other thing is, when you've got a request, a governmental body has a request for a specific service, isn't it common to contract that service? I mean, it was brought out earlier, what's the problem? Unity Point's losing money on that. So is money the problem? Is that the only problem? Is it fixable by just throwing some tax money at it? Or do we need to reinvent the wheel? I think that's the question I have. My history with governmental
Your Honor,
organizations
point of order.
goes
Your
back
Honor,
years,
point of order.
and that's
He
not-
needs to come up to the mic, right?
Yeah, can you come up to the
I'm
microphone,
sorry,
please?
guys. I'm not used to this formal stuff. I don't work in the big city. I think if the issue is only money, maybe writing a contract with Unity Point might be in fact, that might be a short term while we work out all the rest of this stuff, just to make sure that Unity Point I mean, we don't want Unity Point going belly up here. Is that a technical term? That's a technical. Okay.
That's some of the issues that we'll be ironing out.
Yep. But I would think that, you know, a technical service, contact the experts. I don't know of
And
any.
Unity Point has been working with us very well.
Oh, I know they have. So, thank you.
Mike, I think, great.
Yeah. Speaking for the City of State Center, we're totally behind this. I think, though, just listening to it, and I really was interested in what Liscum had to say. How are they going to be affected? Are they going to have improved ambulance service? When you sell this, you've got to sell this to every community on how they will benefit from this, not just Marshalltown. I don't mean to be critical on that, but if you have three ambulances here, and we might have one over at State Center, is Melbourne going to be helped by this? Is Clemens? Is LeGrand? That's your selling point.
I don't think any call should be biased toward a community.
Oh, of course not.
The people in State Center or LeGrand or any place else are just as important as the people in Marshalltown.
Absolutely.
In this service.
But to sell this.
I won't, no, we're not going to do any bias.
To sell this levy, though, you've got to show those people how they're going to benefit.
Yes. Thank you.
Tyler Humford, LeGrand Assistant Director for EMS currently. I agree that we need to work out something for essential services for EMS. I'll say right now we're at about 30 to 40 calls that we've been paged to. I ran about 26 of them myself, 23 to 26 of them myself. Some of the stuff in this summary I don't personally agree with, like saying solution C just simply isn't feasible, and that there's complete lack of respect and distrust with Unity Point. Well, I don't see that on our department. We enjoy working with Unity Point. Half the time, they're there as we're showing up, just because of the fact we have to get to the station, we have to get our truck out and rolling. Unity Point beats us to the scene sometimes even. And I don't get where that's coming from, the complete lack of respect and distrust, and who exactly was on that.
Can I say something?
Yep, go ahead.
What the group that did the study did was interview people from all over the county. And it may not be representative of the LeGrand situation.
Can I ask Chief Cross here? Can I ask what departments were, not like who, but what departments were?
I don't know the answer to that.
You don't have an answer to that?
That was the consultant's body of work.
Because I can say as the Grand, we were not contacted. We weren't talked to. From what it sounds like, Green Mountain might not have even been contacted or talked to. So there's at least 2 departments in the county that weren't involved in this consultation, from what I've heard of. So, and I kind of agree with Nick, but what was your name, sorry? And I agree with them. Why not work out a 2-3-year deal currently with Unity Point as we go through this and figure out more and really get to where it benefits all in the community, all in the county. So that is it.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Fuller. I'm not speaking on behalf of Melbourne. I'm speaking on behalf of the taxpayer part of me. The gentleman in the back is not lying when Angie responds to 90% of the calls in Melbourne. I mean, I had a meeting last week at the jail for the Hazard Mitigation Planning Committee for the county, and Angie went ahead of me in our EMT vehicle to respond to a crash on 30. What I'm worried about is when you say that the funding will be funneled to smaller communities like Melbourne, our Haverhill's even, more off the beaten path than Melbourne is. We're right on 330. You say that we're working together, but are you going to try and determine how we use that funding? Or are you going to, like my taxpayer dollars equal just as much as anybody in Marshalltown? we had, I don't know, 300 voters in our election, and this last election in November, and I can't even imagine how many people came out and voted in the Marshalltown elections. So, I mean, 300 people in Melbourne don't amount to, even 1,000 in Marshalltown. So just, I see that it's an agreement between the city of Marshalltown and the county. And you said it called for a letter of support from the towns. Would it be more beneficial to do also 28E agreements with the county through each town, or?
Yeah, I think all the towns would have to do 28Es.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, then back to the funding part of.
What are you asking me?
Wait, when you say that the money's going to be funneled to smaller communities like Melbourne,
Right.
are you going to determine how we use those funds?
No.
Okay, you're just going to,
It's for the system.
Okay.
And if you need to do training or you need equipment, this money is generated under the guise of creating the situation in the county where that we've designated that what we do, what you do in your local communities, it's an unfunded mandate, essentially, that it's essential. And we want you to use the proceeds of the system, or of what we're trying to build, to make whatever we want local control for you. And we just use it however you think you need to use it, as long as you have to account for it.
Yeah.
You have to account back to the EMS board and make an accounting, because we all have to be accountable for all the tax dollars that we'll spend. Has to come back in a report. Here's how we used all of the money for town X. And it's up to you to figure out what your needs are for that.
so this may be further down the line, of course, but if, 3 ambulances in Marshalltown, you've got an ambulance in State Center, but a majority of your calls are most likely going to come from Marshalltown. If you're taking that ambulance from State Center, not taking, excuse me, but like utilizing that ambulance also in Marshalltown, in those 4, the smaller communities may be more affected by that than Marshalltown would be. Because if there's more like you guys responded to on average 10 per day, right?
I can't answer that because I don't know what the volume is. I have an idea of what the volume is. You have to also understand that the system initially will be filtering out interfacility transfers and all that kind of stuff. So it will be a true, go out into the place and bring people back. And I would say that part of the evaluative process of the system after it's up and running, so that we can figure out what we're doing, would be to heat map all of the calls in the county to find out where the needs are. And maybe we need to figure out how to co-locate a unit in the north part of the county or the south part of the county. All those questions are unknowable. The answers to those questions are unknowable because the system is not running. So I would caution everybody to try to expand your mind a little bit. All the presupposed things that you may have, or you may think you already know the answers to, I don't even know the answers to it yet, because we're going to have to figure it out. But that's kind of what my back of the napkin math, just from being like an educated guess.
Do you know how many ambulance calls Unity Point has gone on in the past year for the county? I don't.
Ron will look it up here. He's got the number.
I can't tell you.
You need to come to the
Sorry.
microphone, please.
I'm hogging the mic, I apologize.
That's okay. I can't tell you this year, but I can tell you in 23 and 24. So in 2023, there were 5,854 calls. And in 24, there were 5,129 calls.
Do you know the differences between smaller communities versus Marshalltown, or is that just the whole county?
I don't know the answer to that.
We would probably.
Go for it.
Yeah.
We could determine that from grabbing some information from the Bureau of EMS.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's in the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But the report doesn't have the breakdown of Unity points. I think that's the number that I'd like to see as well.
Yeah, I would say that if you add,
Are you going to talk back there in
No.
front? Okay.
disregard,
No, I meant,
So does Mike.
okay.
nothing.
Okay. Let's wrap this up. Do we have direction? Okay. Thank you all for coming. We've got a long way to go on this. I think, as they pointed out, some counties haven't figured it out, but Marshall County tends to figure things out, and I think we can do it. Thank you so much for coming. Meeting adjourned at 7:15.
Get a big bang when you say close.
We know that, you know, I want to get this.
Yeah, for sure, man. Everybody's super smart.
Oh, yeah.
Good question. Good question.